This is Adriana in Long Beach, and this video is about my situation on a platform that we're going to call Frontporch. That's not the platform, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to just call it Frontporch. But this situation that I was in, I believe is applicable to many people, potentially many people of color, on all kinds of these neighborhood platforms or neighborhood groups within a platform, like neighborhood groups on Facebook or whatever. And I want to share my story and share how I'm combating bully moderators on Frontporch, because I think it would be helpful to others. And I look forward to your comments on this video about your experience on neighborhood platforms. But be sure to like and subscribe. So here's my story. I was actually the person who started my neighborhood on Frontporch. And I did it within the first year that this platform was available. Well, because it was new, there weren't very many people on it, and I didn't pay much attention to it. I started this one neighborhood. I looked up months later, and my neighborhood that I started had been subsumed by another neighborhood where the people were much more active, and I was no longer a moderator. Somebody who was active was a moderator on the neighborhood that annexed me. So time passes. It's been over 10 years, maybe over 15 that I've been on this platform. And I wasn't regularly posting. So about a year ago, I started posting regularly, more than 4 times a week. And my posts were about beautiful places in Long Beach. I did this series of posts where I would take pictures of cats all around Long Beach, but the picture would be of the scene and the cat would be somewhere in the scene. And I would be like, I've lost my cat. It wasn't really my cat. And people would play the game of find the cat in the picture. That was a lot of fun. Of hikes, walks I took in Long Beach, beautiful gardens in Long Beach, this type of thing. Posting, again, more than 4 times a week, sometimes more than 6 times a week. Never any complaints, never any problems. Within the last few months, I started posting videos from my YouTube channel specifically about the history of Black people in Long Beach and videos that have to do with being Black in Long Beach. Started regularly getting the videos hidden. The reason given, there were various reasons, but the majority of the time, it was discrimination. So I pushed back against that. Pushed back in 2 ways. I would appeal the fact that the post was hidden, and then I would go ahead and repost it because I knew it was not discrimination. So I'll give you an example. I had a post that was a video of me telling a story about African American women in the 60s who got together as a group and fought housing discrimination. I encourage you to see that video. These women were amazing. I put a post on Frontgate saying, hey, this is my video about these African American women that were combating housing covenants and housing discrimination in the 60s. But those housing covenants were also against Jews. So Jews, please help me out. I am looking for old timers who were involved in fighting housing covenants in Long Beach to make it so that Jews could buy homes in the neighborhoods they wanted to buy homes. I would love to interview one of these people. So please hit up your networks, find me one of these old timers that was doing this social justice work that I could interview. That got taken down as discrimination. So I appealed, and Frontgate answered my appeal, and this is what they said. You're right, Adriana. Those videos were not discrimination, but they were miscategorized. They still needed to be taken down because you're over posting. So I thought about it. I said, okay, when I was doing cats and gardens and hikes a year ago, sometimes more than 4 times a week, no problems. Now that I'm posting about Black people in Long Beach, which is relevant to Long Beach, problems. Okay. I joined a group on Frontgate that was about moderation, where people were free to voice their concerns or criticisms about moderation. When I was in that group, I learned a couple of things. I learned that one particular moderator, let's call this moderator Richard Med, we'll call him Dick Med for short, was the one who was continually tagging my posts. And I learned that Dick Med was also responsible for tagging a bunch of other people's posts for reasons that were dubious, that the many people in this moderation group on Frontgate had reported Dick Med to Frontgate many times, and they were frustrated and fed up because nothing had changed. So I thought maybe there's a different way to approach this, and that's the approach I want to talk to you about on this video. It's an approach rooted in solidarity. So let's get into it. I'm going to read a letter that I wrote to Frontgate Corporate. It's not the original letter. I changed everything about it so that everyone was given a fake name. But it illustrates the type of bullying that Dick Med was doing towards me. And it's a formal complaint against Dick Med to Frontporch Corporate. The explanation you have given regarding what constitutes overposting sounds incredibly arbitrary. As I had stated in my response to Representative Rick, a year ago I was posting more than 4 times per week. The posts were mostly images of cute cats or images of scenic things in Long Beach. No complaints, no reports of overposting. It's only when I started regularly posting content pertinent to Black people in Long Beach or the history of Black people in Long Beach that the problems began. This leads me to believe moderators are weaponizing moderation against me due to content, not due to the frequency of posting or how positively or negatively people engage with the posts. And now I wish to provide an example having to do with moderator Richard Med. I would like to report Dick Med specifically to Frontporch as a moderator weaponizing moderation. I want my complaint escalated to the next highest level for review. Please look at the screenshots in this Google Photos online album. The first image highlights Dick Med advising me that the post would be hidden. It was indeed hidden, because it is about my concerns about moderation. Dick Med informed me that it is against the rules to post complaints or concerns about moderation in the main feed. So Dick Med advises me to join a group specifically about the moderation topic. Below is a screenshot of Dick Med advising me to join that moderation group. I took Dick Med's advice and joined the group, posting my complaints about moderation, specifically his moderation. Image 2 is one of my posts in the group. Image 3 is an alert telling me that the post above was removed for, get this, moderation complaints. Images 4, 5, and 6 are someone who would know in the group telling me that it was Dick Med who reported these posts of mine. This someone who would know also tells me Dick Med is a frequent bully. So Dick Med advised me to join the moderation group as a place to voice moderation complaints. And when I did, Dick Med went to the group, though he was kicked out as a member, and removed my posts for the reason of moderation complaints. When I wrote a post calling out this obvious bullying, that post was removed too. And here's the thing about that post. Image 7 is the second iteration of the post. Notice I did not write Dick Med, I just wrote Richard. His avatar and name are blacked out in the screenshots. The first iteration of the post was removed for reasons of privacy violation. In that first iteration, I wrote Dick Med, and I did no blackout of the screenshots. The privacy violation still makes no sense because I was screenshotting his publicly available comments on my post. But in the second iteration, I hid his entire name and avatar and only referred to him as Richard. So where is the privacy violation in the second iteration? There is no privacy violation in the second iteration, so Dick Med made up a reason for reporting the post. Disrespect. When my complaint is escalated, I want the person reviewing it to also notice something about the comments of the post below. Image 8 is from the comments. It is me telling Dick Med I do not wish to have any dealings with him on Frontporch and asking him to not comment on my posts. Dick Med keeps commenting. He had warned me that that particular post, which is in the main feed, would be removed because the subject was complaints about moderation. So what was he doing, continuing to comment on a post that by his own definition was against the rules? Because I thought the post above would soon be removed, and because Dick Med was continuing to comment on my posts, I sent him a direct message with the link to this video. Now I'm going to play the video, but I'm going to cut off the first part because in that first part, I actually say Dick Med's name. It is Tuesday, 9/17 at 9:23 a.m. and I'm creating this video message specifically for you. This is Adriana Langston. I'm sending you a DM with this video message to let you know that I think you're a bully. That said, I'm not going to allow you to bully me, and I'm personally asking you in an even-toned voice without attacking you that I would request that you stop replying to any of my posts. If you see a post of mine, just skip it. I really do not wish to interact with you at all. Now, I understand you're a moderator, so there may be occasions where you feel my posts are breaking the rules, and I am sure that you are going to report me because I believe that that is the kind of bullying in which you engage. Okay, if you're going to report me, you're going to report me. Though, as you mentioned, you are only one person and there are many moderators. So I think that you could skip any posts that you see are posted by me. And if I am breaking the rules, that another one of the moderators would catch it. I don't know what you're going to do. Maybe you will honor my request and skip. Maybe you'll just look at every post now to find some little thing. I don't know. Regardless of what, though, I ask that you not comment on the posts simply because I feel harassed by you and I do not wish to interact with you on Nextdoor or in real life. So please stop commenting on any of my posts. I would really appreciate it. I wish you all the best, and I admit that just because I believe something is so doesn't make it so, but for me personally, I don't want to interact with you on Nextdoor, and I ask that you please stop replying or commenting on any of my posts on Nextdoor. Thank you very much. Dick Med's response was to tell me not to direct message him anymore. I had no problem obliging him, and I put him on block again. And he kept commenting on my posts. This time his comment was so unnecessary that I do not understand the reason for it at all. His comment was to tell me that while I am not to direct message him any longer, I can still communicate with him publicly. Here's a screenshot. Again, this is after I told him I wanted no interaction with him at all. And noticed the post itself, which he warned me would be hidden, is not yet hidden. Because Dick Med told me I was no longer to send him direct messages, I replied to his comment by again linking to the video message that I had made for him. Dick Med's response to my reply with the video link was to tell me he wasn't going to click on any external links, as I could be leading him to malware. I responded by uploading the video directly into my reply comment to Dick Med. Dick Med's response was to say he wasn't going to play the video and is not interested in anything that needs to be said out loud. In response, I replied to him in writing, saying pretty much exactly what I had said in the video link and reviewing the previous times I had asked Dick Med to leave me alone. It's after I transcribed the video in that reply that the post is removed. Is this enough evidence for you that Dick Med is a person whose history of moderation needs to be thoroughly investigated? Let me review how this looks from my end. I used to be a heavy poster on Frontporch of cat pictures, gardens, and beach scenes. No complaints, no problems. I started posting about the history and state of Black people in Long Beach specifically. My posts were regularly removed under the reason of discrimination. Because I knew the posts were not discriminatory, I reposted them and I waited for my appeals on the removed posts. The appeals sometimes got no answer at all, or the answers took 2 weeks or more and the appeal was denied. I made a document tracking all my appeals and submitted it to Frontporch. Now let me say this. The things that I read just now in the letter are an accurate representation of events, but I do not want anyone reading this video to come away with thinking that I am accusing Dick Med of being racist or removing my posts for racist reasons. As I will explain as the letter continues, I don't know Dick Med personally. I don't know if he's a bully in person. I believe his behavior towards me online has been bullying, but I don't know that he's actually, has a bullying personality or is a bully. I don't know that he harbors any racial animosity at all. But here's what I've experienced in my own life. There are people who are white that I know for a fact do not harbor any racial animosity. And they have an approach that it's better not to talk about anything racial at all. In their view, that brings divisiveness and discord. So they shut down any conversations that have any racial content. Not because they are racist, but because their view is, I don't see color, let's not talk about race at all, because that leads to divisiveness and argumentation. Those people aren't racist, but they're still wrong. There is nothing irrelevant in a front porch feed neighborhood in Long Beach of me posting videos about the history of Black people in Long Beach, as long as the information I'm posting is actually accurate, which it is. There is nothing wrong with me talking about how the history of Black people in Long Beach still has effects today in a front porch neighborhood that is in Long Beach, in that feed. There's nothing wrong with that. And those posts are not discrimination against any race, just talking about the history and just talking about what it means to be Black in Long Beach is not on its face discriminatory. My posts don't point the finger at any race and say you're less than, or you're, black people are above. They don't do that. So they're not discriminatory. So I just want to get that out front. Just because I believe that the content of my post is what caused them to be taken down, it doesn't automatically mean that I am accusing the moderators of racist intent in flagging those posts, because I am not. So, as I stated, I cataloged all my appeals in one document and sent that document to Frontporch. In response, a representative from Frontporch told me that while my posts were not discriminatory, it was okay to remove them because I was overposting. Really? I posted the same thing multiple times because moderators kept hiding my post as discriminatory, and then Frontporch adjudicators still punish me for overposting, for which Frontporch does not have a clear definition, by the way. Even though the adjudicator agreed with me that the reason given for hiding the post in the first place was wrong, I believe my posts are being targeted by Dick Med for bullying because the posts are specifically about Black people in Long Beach. He said as much. Look at image 10. It's a comment of Dick Med's to another commenter on a post of mine. The commenter, Susanna, asks why I believe in color separation. This is a silly question on its face, as my avatar is a photo of me, African-American Adriana, and my white partner, Michael, of over 30 years. But it is also a silly question on the facts, as no post I have ever posted advocated for the races not to mingle. Had that been the case, the person examining my posts at Frontporch would have definitely agreed with the moderators that the posts were discriminatory. He did not. But Dick Med does not consider Susanna's question silly. Here's his response. That's a great question. And that question is the reason these topics aren't allowed in the main feed, because these topics frequently lead to a thread being hijacked, and things that may be unrelated to the intent of the post end up ruining the conversation for everyone. For Dick Med, the very act of posting a post where the main topic is about the history of Black people in Long Beach, or specifically about Black people in Long Beach, should be flagged as discriminatory, even if the content of the post is not putting Blacks down or any other race. He says the reason for this is that topics about race bring out the worst in people. Who my posts are bringing out the worst in is Dick Med as a moderator. I will be submitting additional information about Dick Med as a bully and as an inappropriate moderator. I'm focusing on him because he's bullying me, and I do not tolerate bullies. But Dick Med is not the only moderator who Frontporch needs to investigate. May I suggest Frontporch actually peruse the posts in the moderation group I joined? There are examples of blatant rule breaking among the moderators. I look forward to reading how Frontporch intends to handle this particular situation of moderator bullying against me. I personally believe that if a thorough investigation of the history of complaints against Dick Med is conducted, he will be expelled from Frontporch altogether, not just from the moderator group. That email that I just read to you was a response to an answer I had received when I submitted a complaint through the Frontporch website for submitting a complaint. The response had a case number attached to it. The email was in reply to that response. That case number is important in the strategy that I am going to explain on how, using solidarity, you can deal with inappropriate or bullying moderators on an online platform. First thing you need to do is lodge a complaint. The second thing you need to do is wait for a reply to the complaint you lodged. The complaint you lodged, when it gets a reply, will have a case number in it. you need to document that case number. Before you even lodge the complaint, you should be cataloging the incidents of the inappropriate behavior of the moderator about which you have a complaint, the one that's doing the behaviors that are inappropriate. In my case, the inappropriate behavior was, as I stated, taking down posts saying they were discriminatory when in fact they were not. I want to show you how to most efficiently set up your document in which you catalog the inappropriate behavior of the moderator. So let's get into it. The document that I use to catalog all of my Frontporch appeals. Now, it's not actually the document because I wanted to make sure to hide all identifying information, so I recreated the document, put fake names and so forth in there. This is in Google Docs, but if you have Microsoft, you can do this in OneDrive using Microsoft Word. You know, whatever you have, you can do it. There has to be basic elements to you cataloging the incidences you want to point out about inappropriate moderator behavior. So I'm going to go over what those elements are. For each incident, give the incident a header. And literally, do you see you type whatever the name of the header is going to be, and then you go to the formatting and you make sure that it is in the heading style, right? Okay, so do that. And then select it and add a bookmark. And this is going to be really, really relevant. Make sure you add a bookmark to each header, right? Then do a screenshot of the incident. If it's a inappropriate direct message, do a screenshot of that. If it's an inappropriate comment, do a screenshot of that. If it is your post of a certain type being flagged, but you have examples of other posts that were similar that were not flagged, do screenshots of your post and screenshots of posts that were just like it by other people that did not get flagged, so you can show that you're being singled out. Okay, so here's my screenshot of the post. Now, in mine, and I suggest this, in addition to doing the screenshot, do a direct link to the post that was removed. And on what I'm calling Frontporch, when you get an alert, you can actually click on the alert and it will take you to the post, even though the post is hidden, and you can get the URL from that and put it in your appeal document. So tell the reason given for why the post was removed, and then give your explanation for why it should not have been removed. So once you do all of that, you can go up to the very top of your document and you can add a table of contents. Insert table of contents. And we're going to insert it like, sorry, the screen share thing I'm using is getting in the way. Well, I'm unable to add it, but it looks like this. And as you add more to your document, you can refresh. Now, why would you do this? Because when you are discussing a specific incident with adjudicators, you can use the links in your table of content, and it will link. You can copy and paste these links and it will go. So you can copy it like this. You can paste that into your email to the adjudicator, and it will go directly to that point in the document. On Google Docs, what you want to do is make sure that share is set up so that it is not restricted, but anyone with the link can view it. Now you can share this entire document with anybody by copying the link, or you can direct them to individual incidences by copying any one of the links in your table of contents. So that's it. Heading, bookmark on the heading, screenshot, heading, bookmark on the heading, screenshot, link to the post, reason why it was hidden, and then your explanation of why it shouldn't have been hidden. That's the whole kit and caboodle of how you should set this up. You should put these all in one document so that as you add to this document and as you make your appeals to the individual or appeals to individual posts that were hidden or complaints about individual incidences, you always want to link to this document, because when the adjudicator looks at this document, they will see not only the incident, the most recent incident about which you are speaking, but they will see the pattern of what is going on in moderation in whatever platform about which you are speaking. Okay, so here is how we gather all of the evidence about inappropriate moderator behavior in one place so that a pattern can be shown to the adjudicators of the platform. I made a complaint on the platform website. I got a response via email. The response included a case number. I sent the letter that I read as a reply to that email. And then here's what I did. I sent Kelly that same response that I had put to the email, and I sent it to the Frontporch people. I did this because what Kelly is going to do is she is going to write her own letter. And in that letter, she's going to put the URL for her document where she catalogs all her incidences, right? And when she writes her own letter, she's going to do it by hitting the reply all. What is that going to do? It's going to send it to support with the same heading and case number on it. And it's also going to send me a copy, right? So when support gets this email, its automated email platform that it's using is going to associate my email with it, because I'll be in the reply all, right? And the case number for the complaint that I have against this specific moderator. So Kelly's evidence then gets added to my case about this specific moderator. And you want to send an email like this to every person that you find who is experiencing the same thing that you are experiencing as far as unfair moderation. But what this means is, if you have a case number where your complaint is about a specific moderator, you're only sending that email to others that have a complaint about that specific moderator. If your complaint is about moderation in general and how there is, for example, inconsistency in which posts are taken down. When I post about politics in the main feed, it's always taken down, but I see this person over here and this person over here and this person over here, they have posts about politics, theirs are still up, whatever. That's just an example. If that's the nature of your complaint, you want to go onto Frontporch or whatever your platform is, and you want to make a complaint just about that aspect. And you want to get an email reply with a case number, and you want to send that email only to your co-platform users who have a complaint about inconsistency in moderation, so that the case numbers are always showing a pattern of the same type of behavior, or always showing a pattern about the same moderator. So you may have to file individual complaints for the different things that you feel moderation is doing wrong. And you may have to get a case number for each one of those things. And then you shoot out that case email to the individuals who are like, yes, that same category of behavior and moderation is happening to me. So that the evidence for the pattern that you want to establish is all gathered in the same case. In my particular case, I was already familiar with a number of people on Frontporch because I knew them in real life, or I knew them from a Facebook group that met on Zoom regarding combating illegal fireworks in Long Beach. But in your particular case, on your hyper local platform, where exactly should you be looking for people to solicit to be in solidarity with you to combat inappropriate moderation? The first place to start would be subgroups on your very platform. There probably are subgroups that are discussing challenges with moderation. In the case of Frontporch, the moderation subgroup had been there for some time, but I only learned about it recently. So you should definitely look. The second place to look is just to keep your eyes open with other users who you see frequently having their posts removed, frequently being suspended for behavior you didn't think was suspension worthy, or who are saying on the platform that they're being treated in an unfair way, or that a moderator is behaving in an inappropriate manner towards them in terms of moderation. And you can politely DM those people and ask them if they want to be involved in helping combat inappropriate moderation. But again, be polite, and if they say, no, I'm not interested, just drop it. Here's the thing you have to remember. In any group, when there is any kind of boss, any kind of overlord, any kind of moderator, and there are a number of people unhappy with that person or those people, only 5% of them, 2 to 5% of them, are actually willing to make any effort to do anything about that. And that is okay. It's always a group of people on the vanguard that are willing to put the work in, that push things forward or make things better for everybody. So just know that if you solicit 10 people who you know have spoken on having challenges with moderation, only 2 of them are really going to be willing to do anything about it. When you are soliciting your co-platform users to join in solidarity, please vet those people. Some of them could be plants. They could actually be people that are snitching to moderators about what you're doing. But the much more likely reason that you have to vet them is some of them could be complaining about moderation because they actually are habitual rule breakers whose habitual rule breaking actually does make the platform a more challenging place for others. So vet them by looking at their posts. The best way to vet them is by video chat, to get a feel for them as people face to face. That brings a level of vulnerability to you, because if you want them to video chat with you, you have to video chat with them. A lot of people are not comfortable with that. I understand, but I'm saying that's the best way to vet. The second best way is to look at their posts on the platform, and if you happen to know their full name, to look at, if you can, at how they're behaving on other platforms. Just make sure you're not getting any, extremists or any crazies, or even any people who really, the reason that they're being suspended, the reason that their posts are being flagged is they are really being mean or attacking other people or doing things that even you would consider like, wow, I'm glad this person got suspended. So just be sure to vet. before you get into the work of getting a solidarity group together, getting your evidence together, helping the other people get their evidence together to combat online bullying by moderators or inappropriate moderator behavior, set realistic expectations. What do I mean by that? If the platform you are on is a for-profit platform with shareholders that has to deliver dividends or has to deliver increased revenue or increased users every quarter, or else the management gets fired, think about the behavior of the person you or people you are trying to combat. If the way they are behaving ends up in the end making the company more money, they are not going anywhere and they will never be disciplined. A lot of platforms don't care if what the moderators are doing incites rage in the user base, because the users who are angry and rageful end up spending more time on the platform looking at the advertisements than do people who are chill. So it's to the benefit of the platform to have rage bait inducing moderators, because it propels discussion, and discussion means people are online discussing, and more eyeballs on the platform for a longer period of time means more money for the platform. So if you can recognize that dynamic, believe me, the platform already knows how many of its users are annoyed, irritated, angry at the way the moderation is being done, and they do not care, because that anger is resulting in more time on the site rather than people just turning off. So if that's use your critical thinking skills to figure out if that's the dynamic that's going on, because if it is, it may not be worth it to try to combat inappropriate moderation because it's making the company money. The other thing that you need to consider is if the general environment is hostile. If you are an atheist on a hyper-local platform in Idaho or in Utah, and your atheism is known, it may not matter what moderator you get, because you're in the middle, if you're in Utah, of Mormonville. So if one moderator gets booted, the next one that comes on may be just as hostile to you and your beliefs as an atheist. Same with if you're LGBT. If you're LGBT and your hyper-local platform is in a super Christian nationalist neighborhood, the general environment may be hostile to who you are, and therefore how the moderator is treating you in particular is not making anybody upset but you, because the people around you feel the same way about LGBTQ people as the moderator does. So the moderator, instead of being an outlier, may be exhibiting what the majority of the people on the platform consider appropriate behavior rather than inappropriate behavior. So if the general environment is hostile and you are on a hyper-local neighborhood style platform, unfortunately, even if you get together with other people who are experiencing the same thing as you, it may not make a lot of difference. I'm just set your expectations. That's all I'm saying. The other thing is, what is the ratio between the number of users and the number of employees? Facebook, for example, let's say they have 20,000 employees. Let's say they have 50,000 employees. Whatever. They've got over 1 billion users. So many things they automate And that ends up frustrating people who are trying to report harassment, who are trying, not even having to do with moderators, who are just trying to report any kind of rule breaking, because you're not talking to humans, you're talking to algorithms, and you can report and nothing is ever going to happen, because they simply, if human eyes had to look at everything, it would be impossible, because the ratio of employees to the ratio of users is just way, way, way disproportional. So if your hyper-local neighborhood platform is super hyper-local, and it's like run by people in your city, and they've got 10 employees and 10,000 users, it's not that your efforts won't bring about change, but it may take a while. It may take a while. So be aware of the user to employee ratio, just to set your expectations about how many times and for how many weeks, maybe months, you may have to follow up to get action on the evidence that you have presented. So just be realistic in setting your expectations. So the question is, Adriana, why bother? Why go through all this effort to combat inappropriate moderator behavior or bullying by moderators? That is a very valid question that one should ask before embarking on this. So my reason is, I don't want to see an online space that I've been a part of since its inception be a place where African American people in Long Beach cannot freely talk about the experience of being African American in Long Beach, and cannot talk about the history of African Americans in Long Beach. I don't have to remind you about the political climate right now. I am not about to just sit back and do nothing while the ability to discuss African American history in Long Beach is denigrated. Please go back to the part of this video where I said I didn't think the people that were doing this were necessarily racist people at all. So that's my reason. You may feel the same about whatever your situation or your community is. So that's reason number one. The second reason is, depending on what platform it is, it may be a platform where there are a lot of young people on it. I'm thinking of these hyper-local platforms that actually center around schools, individual high schools, individual elementary schools, individual middle schools, whatever. And they're for parents and students, or they're sometimes mostly for students. If the inappropriate moderator behavior is going on a hyper-local platform that it has a lot of young people on it, it's the responsibility of adults to make sure that the moderation that goes on in a place that has a lot of young people on it is being done judiciously. It's the right thing to do. Reason number three is, it may not be worth it. It may not be worth the time, the effort, the hassle, the hair pulling, whatever. In which case, you should look for alternatives. For me personally, I found out this month that the city of Long Beach, California has a vibrant Reddit community with 150,000 users on it, and that Reddit community also has a Discord. I've joined them both, haven't had any problems, been enjoying myself. I encourage people to join it. For you, it might be forming your own group that has to do with your area, your neighborhood. It might be looking on Facebook and seeing if there's subgroups on Facebook that has to do with your area or your neighborhood. Just look, it might be going on Meetup and finding people in your area that are interested in the same thing that you're interested in. All I'm saying is, because there is work involved, and because you have to be patient, you've got to weigh whether or not it's worth it for you. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. In the description are chapter links, so that if there's a particular part of this video you want to share with people on your platform, because it's relevant to what you guys are going through, or you think it might be helpful for them to understand, you can queue up the video directly to that part by hitting on the chapter link. So remember to like, share, and subscribe. And again, thank you so much for watching.